to carry forward a successful marriage, right? And I think that's something that we need to talk about as a society. I think your generation, our generation, maybe I'm a bit older now, but your generation needs to start requesting or start demanding a bit more prep and a bit more transparency and help, and to make this, to ease this, to facilitate it so that it can happen in the right time, in the right form, with the right expectations, and then move forward in the right direction. It shouldn't be the most difficult thing that you do in your life, and it shouldn't take forever to do, and then you shouldn't be miserable in the middle of it. Like that's not how marriage is supposed to be. I know this is what Hollywood tells us. Every awesome story ends when the marriage starts, because we don't want to talk about what happens after that, because after that it's always why. That's not true. That is not true. That is not true. Not Islamically, not historically. That was never the thing. And people joke around about marriage all the time, but that's fun. That's the fun part about marriage. Sit with a few Arab old guys, let's talk about marriage all day long. It's joking. Deep inside, they all know what it meant to them and how important it was to them. And I think that a lot of that has been removed from our youth. I talk to high school students a lot, and I can tell that this is not going well. Like we don't have the right idea of exactly what is it that we're supposed to be working for, to achieve here. Are there a lot of elements that play into this? Yeah, there's a heck of a lot of elements. There's a financial one that is both personal and social. There's an educational one that is both for both genders equally problematic and equally important. Whether it's the debt that comes, or the timing, meaning when you graduate, how old you are, and can you actually when is the best time to get married, and are you going to continue when it comes to sustaining the family, when it comes to professionalism, are we going to work, who's going to work, who's not going to work, what are the obligations in the family household, what are we going to agree to. And we don't understand even the rulings of these things. They're not clear to us. Can we sit down with our future spouse and talk about what we expect at home and then live like that? Does it have to be always the traditional household? No, it doesn't really. Whatever you guys agree to, again, whatever you agree to is fine. It's up to you. Like you say, this is what I accept, this is what if it works, it's compatible, then I don't understand. If it's not compatible, then but this all has to be talked about beforehand. Now, how many people talk about these things beforehand? How many people get into a relationship and these are the things they talk about? No, you waste the first 6 months and year, all the mushy garbage, and then you get into the household and you're like, we don't agree on anything. Like, I don't like anything you say or do, and she said the same thing for you. And like, why did we get into this? Because we didn't talk about the important stuff to begin with. We didn't take time to actually understand what is it that we need to know about one another, so that we see, can we live properly together and enjoy our lives and build a family or not? And that's, I think, where maturity comes in. Meaning we're not even preparing our youth to be mature enough to talk and ask the questions that they should ask. I always ask young guys who want to get married, so what do you want? What is the classical answer? I don't know. Well, who's supposed to know? I'm supposed to know for you what you want? No one knows. If you don't know what you want, then how are you going to get it? Like, if you don't have a destination, it doesn't matter what path you take. You can walk anywhere. You don't know where you're going. You have to know what you want, so you start looking for it, and then you find it, and you build on it. And I think that prep, I'll tell you this, one of my teachers in Hadith, his name was Dr. Sheikh Muhammad Khair al-Sha'al. You can look him up. His name is Muhammad Khair al-Sha'al. He's a dentist. He's a scholar of Hadith. And he asked once, in 2005, and he was telling us he wanted to do a marriage prep course. And he was like telling us, I'm not sure if I should do it or not. Like, I'm not sure anyone will come to it. We're like, no, Sheikh, try, right? You tried. 3,000 people showed up. He filled a stadium in Duma. This is the 19th edition this year. He's done it 19 times himself. Yes, people are doing it for him. I went to it 3 times myself before I got married. Right? It was a good place to look for a wife too, because everyone was there, like, with both males and females. But you learned a lot. You learned exactly what it is. He talks, and we don't have enough prep. This has to be a goal. You're going to get married. You're going to have a family. It's part of being Muslim. It's a part that you should enjoy. You should be proud of. You should want to fulfill. It should be facilitated for you. And you should be prepared for it. And that's why we have a lot of divorce, because this is not important anymore. A lot of this is kind of falling through the cracks, and there's not enough. We don't like talking about difficult things. And Arab and Muslim parents in general do not enjoy having these conversations with their kids. Like, they will not talk about these things until they're ready. And even when they're ready, they won't really talk about anything. It's just a matter of, let's do this, and it's all in code and in sign language. When it comes to actually talking about the issues, which wasn't the thing a long time ago, at least. Are there any differences? Are there any differences in Salah between Sunni and Shia, the 12 Ja'fari, that would invalidate the prayer of Sunni praying behind the Shia Imam? Okay, good question. There are certain differences. Now, there are different schools within the Shia madhab. As long as, this is my opinion, there's a lot of different opinions on this matter. I'm not going to go through all of them because it's too exhausting. I'll tell you what I think. As long as the imam is holding on to the basic movements, meaning the sequence of them, then you should be good. Meaning if their prayer, the components of their prayer is standing, then ruku', then rafi', and then sajda, then a jalsa, then a sajda, then again, then you should be fine. Regardless of what they may say in those movements or what they may be doing. But if you walk in and you don't know who's in front of you, you don't know, you pray and you find that they're saying things a bit differently, as long as they're maintaining those movements, your salah should be okay. And if they do something that breaches that, then you do niyat al-mufaraqa. You have the intention of leaving the imam and then continuing on your own. And you can do that a lot, and even when you're praying behind a Sunni imam who may be praying 3 rak'ah and you have the intention of praying 4 because you're praying different prayers. Right? So you can just do mufaraqa, meaning I'm going to leave this imam and continue on my own. Right? And the same thing when you're praying behind a Shia imam. I wouldn't shy away unless you could see that the movements are very different, meaning what they're doing is completely different, so that to the point where within the madhahib that we have, the Sunni schools of thought, the prayer that they are praying is invalid. Meaning it's invalid even from a physical perspective. And when it comes to the movements themselves, they're not doing the movements in sequence. But besides that, you should be okay, inshallah. And that's just something to think about, because I think you have that here every once in a while, right? I think some Shia brothers and sisters pray here. So again, you can follow, and if they breach a fundamental rukn, like a pillar of salah, then do niyat al-mufaraqa and move and pray on your own. Just continue the prayer alone. But as long as they're not, you can continue, even if what they may be saying may not be exactly what you say. You say what you need to say and kind of continue the prayer. Okay. Actually, I got that question just a few days ago as well from the high school students. The same problem at the high schools. But yeah, that's just again. There's an issue of tolerance here that we have to also keep in mind. Like there are other opinions that say no, you can't pray, but I think we should think in the other direction a bit in terms of the unity of the Muslims in this continent. Question after that. What do you think of Hizb al-Tahrir? Oh my gosh. Oh no. What do you think of Hizb al-Tahrir and their efforts to re-establish the caliphate? My opinion on all the Muslim/political movements is that they are very they're completely ineffective, and they haven't done anything in the last 60 years besides actually stain a lot of Islamic concepts in a very negative way, and they haven't achieved like basic short-term goals that they need to achieve. My opinion of Hizb al-Tahrir is a very negative one. If you're asking what I think, it's a very negative one. I lived in Syria for most of my life. I have debated every single Muslim political / school theological or mentality movement that you can imagine, and really there's not much. They haven't really done much at all. Besides, come up with the concept. And I'll tell you this if you listen to this. There's a phenomenon called group within group phenomenon. And this is not something that is specific to the Islamic faith. This is to all theologies and ideologies on the planet. I'll give you an example. We're in a school. There's a teaching staff, right? We teach. And then I'm one of the teaching staff, for example. You are, he is. We come together and say, you know what? We're going to call ourselves this school's teaching staff, right? And then we make a movement. We call ourselves the teaching staff. And then the principal is like, well, what do you guys do? We're the teaching staff. We focus on everything the school focuses on. Everything. The school is for education. It's for personal development. It's for support and psychological and educational. All this stuff is what we're going to support on. But that's what the school does. Why do you guys start this move? What you guys have no focus? No, we don't have focus. We're called this teaching staff. So what are we then? What is everyone else? I don't know what you guys. You're a part of the school. I don't know. We're called this teaching. Anyway, that's what we do. What would be beneficial if the three of us came together and said, we're going to focus on the student counseling. Right? That'll be fine. Actually, the principal will say, that's an awesome initiative. Jazakumullah khair. You're going to focus on, we're a group within a group with a very specific focus. But when you have a group within a group that does the exact same thing that the group is doing, you just started a movement of exclusion. You just started saying, well, we're the real Muslims. I don't know what you guys are. But we're the guys. So whether you're talking Hizb al-Tahrir or Hizb al-Nur or Hizb al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin or any of the Ahzab that exist, they do the exact same thing. It's always been the same. Nothing has ever changed. You have to explicitly explain what is it that makes you want to start a group with, because being a Muslim, you're already part of an ummah, already part of a big group. I don't need to be part of another group. Why do I have to become a part of another group? I'm already part of one. Unless there's a specific focus for this group. Is it political? Awesome. It's political. I'll join because I care about politics. But you don't care about politics, so you don't have to join. And you're just as good. You can support from outside. Maybe you don't even have to support. Maybe you'll start another political group because you don't like the aspect. That's fine. For example, what is the Shafi'i? Shafi'i is a fiqh madhab. It's fiqh. It's fiqh al-usul. That's what it is. It's not a hadith madhab. It's not an aqidah madhab. The Shafi'i don't have opinions under the name of Imam Shafi'i and aqidah and hadith. It's just fiqh. Or else you're starting a group within a group. That's why these groups are beneficial. They brought forward jurisprudence. And so on and so forth. Same thing. That's why you'll find different groups, and when it comes to aqidah, you'll find different groups. Why? There are aqidah groups specializing in studying theology or studying hadith, and that's what they understand. When we talk about these groups, no, they focus on everything. They are groups that are political, social, financial, theological, ideological. Well then, how is that different than being a Muslim? Because a Muslim does all these things too. That's what Islam does. Unless you believe that you have the only right narrative. And that's not me going into any details of why Hizb al-Tahrir is not worth the time of the day to waste any time talking about it. But talking about all the different ahzab that exist that were developed at a certain time in history to serve in a certain place, and they failed. They were developed by someone who lived in a certain time and place to serve that time and place, and it failed. Why would you go and bring that ideology that was done 60 or 70 or 100 years ago, somewhere different, a different time, that failed when it was supposed to work, and you bring it here in Canada and you stick it in 2017? That's insane. That is insane. There's no sense and logic in that at all. Now, when it talks about the caliphate, establishing the khilafah is something that all Muslims would love to see one day. We would all love to see the unity of the Muslim world come back again, and to see the khilafah return to the ummah all over again. But what are the means that we need in order to achieve that? Is that going to be an artificial movement, or what's going to happen is going to be a natural next step? Meaning, politics is always the natural next step of people being like-minded people coming together and working together. The natural next step is that we need to organize. We need leadership. Someone has to lead so that we can get things done. And that's the next step of politics. That's what politics does. It helps us govern people who are like-minded or people who want to come together and do something. It's not something that's artificially... We talked about this last year when about the questions about Daesh, ISIS, and all these other things. All these groups view the pyramid, Islamic political pyramid, starting from the top down. Meaning, down you have the common man. And in the middle you have the intellectuals and those who are folk, who have specific professions that they're good at. And then you have the top of the pyramid, the rulers, right? So that's the political pyramid. So how do these groups, all these groups by the way, all of them, how do they view these things working? They view that reform starts from the top. Meaning you put in a regime, and that regime makes sure that everyone does their job, right? Islam never worked like that. It started from the base up. People, you start with the human beings, you bring them together, you have like-minded people. You start amongst those people who are the common population, you start educating so that you have people who have specific professions and specific attributes and skill sets that they can do things. And then when that group is strong enough, the next step will be governance. You don't start from top down. Starting from top down is just another form of dictatorship. There's dictatorships that are non-Islamic, and there's dictatorships that are Islamic. There's still dictatorships. There's no difference, really. What happens if the population that you have don't want, let's say, you come to a Muslim country, it's 90% Muslim, but then you talk about Islamic law and none of them want it. What do you do? So what you do, the answer that you will offer, well, so if you're part of these groups, you'll say they're going to do it whether they like it or not. And I'll say, no, of course you're not going to do it if you don't. What is that? That's dictatorship. You don't get to dictate. You tell them this is the rule of Allah. If they accept it, they accept it. If they don't accept it, they get to carry that. You don't force them to do something. You don't force a law upon people. Forcing law upon people has been tried before many, many times throughout history of humanity. It's failed every time. It never works. It never will work. What does work is changing mentalities. Pot has been illegal for many, many years. Does that stop everyone from doing it all the time? No, because laws don't change people's mentalities. Mentalities will dictate law. It works the other way around. Hizb al-Tahrir and Hizb al-Nur and Hizb al-Muslimin and ISIS and all the different groups that exist there that have holistic ways of looking at things. The way they look at it is that you're going to bring Islamic law and you're going to fix the land with it. What is Islamic law? What is the most important thing in Islamic law? It's justice, it's fairness, it's equality, it's equity. That's the first thing. Not cutting hands off and lashing people and closing down bars. That's not the first thing that you do. That's not how, that mentalities will dictate whether that will happen or not. Now that is the law of Allah. I'm not saying it's not, of course it's the law of Allah. Of course I accept it upon myself and that, but many people may not. It's different. Establishing the khilafah, is it a wajib? Is something you have to be working towards every day from a political perspective? No. You should be working towards the personal perspective of it, the social perspective of it. The political will be the natural next step. If you are not trying to fix it politically, well, it's not because you don't care about politics, but because right now, where we are in our Islamic, in the graph of where we are as Muslims, we're far from being able to establish any form of political unity. It's not the time. We barely can get Muslims to read their own Quran. If you can just get the Muslim youth to come to the masjid once a week, jazakallah khair, you are better than establishing, that's better than establishing the khilafah. Because at least you got them to come because they wanted to. Yes, the khilafah could bring them, but could bring them against their will. And how good is that? That's zero, that's صفر. That's actually in the minus. That's worse. I lived in a country where both happened. The leader, Bashar, this guy was not a Muslim. Every time he forced people to do things, people loved Allah more. Because he did it in the name of communism or whatever he did in the name of, right? And then he left and ISIS came. And now they force people to do things, but now people hated what? Understand the problem? Now they hate. Now it's a problem. No, I'd rather take them back to that. Because at least every time that person made a mistake, people loved Allah more and wanted the Quran more. Now, who are they going to curse? What are they going to say? Because when you force people, when the concept is forcing people, it doesn't work. I'm going to give you my model of what I think the khilafah is going to look like, just to kind of bother whoever, because of the idea. What I think was going to happen, I don't think we'll ever go back to exactly the way it was. We're not going to have Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, and Ali, and Harun Aziz, and Harun Rashid. It's not going to be like that anymore. That's not going to happen anymore. What's going to happen is that we're going to have a few things that are going to change. We're going to open borders just like the European Union did, meaning Muslims will be able to move within the borders without visas. They'll be able to move from one place to the other to work and live without actually needing to wait for 6 months in front of the embassy and try to get in with a visa and then be treated different. No, we'll be able to. There'll be free trade between the Muslim countries. They'll be just like all provinces and all states within the United States and Canada. They will have self-governing bodies that will govern them. And we will have a united Ministry of Exterior Affairs, meaning from an army perspective, from an exterior policy perspective, we'll have something united. That's what I think it'll look like one day. And the person who is the Minister of External Affairs will be the person that we identify with as the Khalifa, because under him is the external policies and the armies. But besides that, I don't believe that we'll ever go back to exactly the way it was during the Umayyad, Abbasi, or Uthmani Empire. And I don't think we should, because it wasn't all that great. Not everything about it was awesome. I'm not saying it was all bad, but I'm not saying that not everything of it was actually perfect. There's a lot of mistakes that happened, a lot of things that were negative that happened. It was a monarchy. It was a monarchy. A monarchy goes against everything that Islam preaches. You're not born into anything. You're not born into royalty. You're not born into piety. You're born, and then after that, it depends on what you offer, whether you get to do something or not. So, and that's not how was what happened during the Umayyad and Abbasi and Uthmani. What the Sahaba did? No, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, they're not related. It's not son giving it to his father giving it to son. Yet we move towards that. So today we may have, let's take it back to the Abu Bakr time. Yeah, that's impossible. Anyone who says that is very, very naive. If you think that's impossible, that tells me that you're very naive. You have no idea the geopolitical the situation and the status quo of the Muslim world today. We have a lot of things we have to deal with. It's insane the number of problems that we have. But there are practical things we can do. The model that I offer today is not my own. I'm not the only one who talks about it. There's a lot of Muslim thinkers who think this is how it'll all unravel eventually. And it'll be good. That's good. If I can go to my neighbor's country without needing to get a visa and to go through customs and to be treated as a foreigner, if I can work there, if I can live there, if I can trade openly, if we have an external policy that makes us feel secure and safe and proud as Muslims, then that's exactly what you're looking for. Everything else is just a matter of prestige. Everything else actually leads to maybe a more dominant totalitarian government that is not necessarily an Islamic one to begin with. I think talking about politics and khilafah is like, it's like a guy who's not even married yet talking about what he wants to call his son. Alright? So if you're sitting here saying, I think I'm going to call my first son Ahmed, and you're not even engaged yet, I don't understand what you're doing. Like you're far, how about we leave that later? Leave that to later. Let's focus on getting you through your education, getting you married, and then we'll talk about your kids. How about that? How about we don't talk about khilafah and how it's going to look like and how we have to work towards it before we fix the simple problems that we have in our community. Just the simple stuff. Well, just get the kids to come pray in the masjid. Just Maybe we stop lying and parking our cars in front of other people's driveways during Jummah. Maybe simple stuff like that. Let's fix that. Let's have a sense of unity amongst ourselves as Muslims to the point where we can coexist, we can work, we can support ourselves, support our disabled and our elderly, and just do the basic things that you need to do as a society. And then once we do that, we can talk about power. There are 3 elements you need before you can talk about power. You need the idea. You have to have a set of values and rules that you agree to, that everyone agrees to, that they're holding on to. You need to have knowledge, and you need to have wealth. You need to have a fund. As a society, you guys have money. You can move money around. You're making sure the money is distributed positively and properly amongst people. And knowledge is rising. I mean, everyone's being educated in everything they need to be educated in, whether it's Islamic knowledge or it's worldly knowledge. You have enough professionals in every field to actually fulfill the gaps that they have. And then you can talk about power. Then you can talk about maybe a form of politics. But we're far from that. Wallah, it's a waste of time. I don't. And if anyone here is thinking of being a Hizb ut-Tahrir, stop immediately. Stop immediately and turn back and do not get involved in any of the ahzab that exists at all. Get involved in the masajid that exists. The masajid, that's the Muslim hub. Go there and see what the masjid needs and work for the sake of Allah there. If you want a better organized platform, look for people who are like-minded and organize amongst yourselves and start a small group that will do something that will help the Muslims. Don't get involved in these agenda-driven political parties that were established a long time ago, they failed a long time ago, and I don't know why they're still lurking around. And it's a waste of everyone's time and effort. And if you're more interested in going about details of Hizb ut-Tahrir, come to me, I can talk to you. I really prefer not to, but I will, if you need to understand more details, I'm happy to share with you their problematic way of how they look at everything. But they're not alone. I'm not singling them out only because the question singled them out, but there are a lot of other groups that are doing the same thing. Again, the group within group phenomenon is not healthy for any society. It excludes people. It makes it feel like them and us. We are Muslims, I don't know what they are. No, if you have a group, make sure you have a specific focus within that group. You're doing something to help the society. You're not doing everything, because that just means the rest of us aren't doing anything or we're not worthy, and it just doesn't look good. And it's very exclusional, and all faiths have had this, and it's always caused division. It's never brought any help for anyone. The final question, actually we don't have time, but let's see what this one is. What's the best way to deal with arrogance both in others and in ourselves? Well, the first way to deal with it in others is not to deal with it in others. You can't deal with it in others. How do you deal with something that is inside the heart and mind of someone else? That is impossible. You have no control over that. Again, coming back to control. You cannot control what people think or feel. If they're arrogant, that's their thing. It's not your job to come and tell them, don't be arrogant. That's not your job. Don't try and do that. Unless you know the person really well and they look up to you and they're seeking your advice, don't offer that. I mean, it's going to come off as arrogant, and they're going to say, well, you're arrogant by telling me that I'm arrogant. That doesn't make any sense. How you fix it in yourself? Well, that's a question that I can answer, inshallah, in a bit more detail next time, because I'll tell you this though. It's the human beings or the Muslims' life journey of trying to purify the heart. That's all you do, basically, from the day you're born to the day you die. You're trying to purify the nafs, trying to get rid of all the bad attributes, trying to get rid of jealousy and envy, trying to get rid of vanity, trying to get rid of arrogance, trying to get rid of the desire to show off and to get people's approval. You're trying to get rid of greed and hatred and bigotry and laziness and oblivion and indifference. All these things exist inside the nafs. You're spending all your life trying to get rid of them. Islam gives you a way of life that will allow you to do that, that you will prevail. Arrogance, the only problem with it is just basically not understanding where you lie within this universe. You don't understand your role. You think your role is higher than what it actually is. That causes a person to be arrogant. If you understand that you're a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you did not contribute in your own existence in any way at all, then you will feel much better about knowing that I am only worthy if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls me worthy. He hasn't called me worthy yet, so I have really no reason to think I'm better than anyone, because no one has been called out yet. And that makes it, and that realization brings forward humility, which is the pinnacle and hallmark of all ethics. The best ethic of all is humility. If you're humble, then you will achieve everything in life. And if you're not humble, then you won't achieve much and people won't like you either. So it's something worth taking time. I will talk about that inshallah. I like that question. And I think I did a halaqah a few years ago here. It's called Amrad al-Qulub, the disease of the heart. I think I spoke about arrogance for at least 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm happy to do it again. But again, this is something that is not, there's no recipe. A few eggs and a couple of milk. There's nothing that I can give you that will take away arrogance. But there are practical steps you can take in terms of dealing with the little remnants of arrogance that you may have in yourself, if you're feeling that you may have some in yourself. When it comes to others, actually thinking people are arrogant is one of the signs of you being arrogant. If you always look at people and say arrogant, not arrogant, then that's a problem. You have to fix that. Because you can't control them, first of all, and you shouldn't be thinking like that to begin with. Always assuming people are arrogant means that because you assume, you project on people what you think of yourself. You project on others how it all works inside. So if you're saying, I think these people are arrogant, probably tells me that there's some of it in you as well. So just think about that, and that could help you maybe deal with it. Inshallah, at the beginning of next semester, inshallah, we'll start with that question. That way, we'll be able to go through the details. I'll take